He's built Apple in Arabic, Nike across continents, and beauty brands worth billions. Saeed David Nafed joins us this week to talk transformation, loyalty, and how the best brands don't just sell, they stick. If you're fascinated by how the greats think, this one's a masterclass. Welcome, Saeed. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Looking forward to this one.
Bring it on. I'm ready.
A marketing genius like yourself to come in and talk about all the things that you've done. There aren't many people who have sat on this chair who are working with some of the biggest sort of global brands. So we're looking forward to seeing
I've been blessed.
What you can provide us.
Ready.
Give us the one thing the one rule that has worked with Apple, Nike, Majid Al Futtaim, Armani. What's the one universal rule?
I think without it being obvious that it's me that was consistent across all of those brands, I think it's consistency, and it's the repetition. So when you have a very strong strategy, and it is literally lived by the company, and it's translated to every single individual, and everybody knows why we do the things we do, and deliver that message in a very consistent manner for even customers or consumers to know what you stand for. That's the secret formula.
Amazing.
Consistency, consistency, consistency.
Amazing. Do you feel a sense of larger pressure when you're working for these global sort of iconic brands, and you're in a role that is so crucial to driving that sort of, that customer story, that journey and so forth?
The pressure is that because all eyes are on the brand, and all eyes are on the unfortunate, on the failures more than on the successes. So I think that's where there is pressure across the organization, but it goes back to when you deliver an experience, when you sell a product, when you take somebody on a journey and they experience what good looks like, you'll forget the pressure. You really start feeding off the excitement and the passion when you're delivering your service or product or experience. So you tend to forget about the pressure and just focus on the things that matter.
Is it hugely challenging to sort of take on a role with such seniority in marketing where the brand is already established? Everyone knows them. Everyone knows Nike. Everyone knows these types of brands. And you're coming in and you're almost taking up what's already been done, but you also want to create your own sort of legacy in that sort of brand. How do you handle that?
I mean, it's true, because you're walking into a role where the blueprint has been created already. So you'll find ways of elevating, you'll find ways of making something more efficient, you'll find things to go faster to market. But the blueprint is not yours. And I think that once you go into environments where you are leading a function and you're part of building that playbook and playing within that playbook, that's when it gets exciting. Because that's when you look back and really see something that you have built, created, evolved, and made it into a model that somebody else can now use as a playbook.
How hands-on are you as a marketing lead?
I mean, I started in retail when I was 15 years old, selling footwear, and I was amazing at it. I can sell products, and I think the stories behind the products, the way they're merchandised, the way they're presented, when these designers build these products, intrigued me more. So for me, that was very key in order to keep fueling the decisions I've made throughout my career. And so when I'm at the level where I'm at today, I can talk out of experience. I've done the job of selling. I've done the job of merchandising. I've done the job where I had to go back from the point of sale all the way back to corporate and take people on a journey of, but this is your customer. This is how we're serving the customer. These are the needs and wants of the customer. And getting them to understand that they might be in finance, or they might be in allocation, or they might be in merchandising. But if we all do not work together and understand that, that final moment, the moment of truth, to deliver whatever it is that we're delivering to our customer. And it comes with such a credibility because you've done the job. So, it again depends on the maturity of the business that I walk in. I always say that 60% of my day to day is actually being a teacher
Yeah.
a mentor, which is being hands-on. You know what? Let's do this together.
Yeah.
Let's figure this out together, and that builds a lot of respect, but as well trust that it's not just yet another leader that comes and says this is how we're going to do it, but then leaves teams to figure it out.
The do as I do, not as I say type sort of leadership, right? And so does that experience that you've had throughout your career, that obviously helps you become a stronger leader and get that sort of buy-in?
It helps define your authenticity, your credibility. It helps. It brings a lot of confidence, because when you walk into new businesses, there's always this, am I going to be able to turn this business around? This is a big challenge. I mean, all eyes are on you, and then it's always having that conversation with yourself. Going, hold on a second, but I've been doing this now for the last 20 to 25 years, if you count my years in retail and in stores. I got this, and if I don't, it's fine to fail, and accepting to fail, knowing to pick yourself up and move on again.
So when was that moment for you, that mindset shift where you had enough self-awareness, enough confidence to truly believe that when you stepped into that role, no matter what was happening around you, no matter what sort of chaos or challenges you were facing, you just knew, no, I've got this, I know this, and I can get this done?
I think it's throughout my career, you've always been a marketing expert in some kind of a form, and whether it was very heavy on retail marketing or digital marketing. With my experience at or moving into a CMO role, and really covering all of the functions within marketing, you start to realize that your passion, your functional expertise, your experience are kind of scattered in different pockets. I love this. I love creative. I don't love the operations. Digital marketing is going way too fast for me. I mean, all of these, new tools and software and segments and data. So you step back and you allow yourself to, accelerate what you like and what you're good at, and acknowledge that there are pockets where you're slower and where you need others to help you, and be able to hire people that are better than you to be able to do the job, and for you actually to keep learning and growing from your team.
You're comfortable with that?
Absolutely.
Were you always?
No. No. It's again, it's maturity, it's seniority. You'll see that there are different kind of leaders that want to hire people that would take marching orders and just go and do the job, or to have a good mix of people that challenge, push back. And I think that that's what I truly enjoy is, when you have a family, when you have teenagers at home that you try to tell how to be best in school and best in life, that's not the job you have at your daily work life. That is, because even when your kids mature to a point, you're always a father, but then you become a mentor, and you're going, you're shifting your roles as a father.
Always.
Same thing happens as well on the workplace. I mean, the younger kids, the Gen Zs in today's world, they need a little bit of parenting. So I mean, it is what it is. But then the millennials, you're like, you know what, you got it. Go do and deliver what you need to do, and then you start, having a battle, having kind of a sparring game where they end up being able to do their job, knowing that I got you. I mentor you. I'm on the sideline. Just be amazing in what you do. So yeah, it's just depending on again maturity and the business you walk into.
Okay, can you share some insights into the untold story of the Nike Apple Watch sort of sellout that happened?
Yeah, I mean it's weird. It's one of those stories that, so whatever product Apple launches, it's obviously done in a very secretive way.
Of course.
And that's to build that moment of excitement and to surprise and delight customers with all the latest and greatest. When you have a brand such as Apple work with Nike, and they're working on something new that only the most senior executives know what they're working on, because their level of disclosure.
Of course.
And when you're then being brought in to work on something that you cannot talk about, that you're only being disclosed, 6 months or 12 months prior, and then your job is to work across the globe and convince senior leaders to buy into a product that is the most expensive SKU in the assortment, most expensive product to date within a Nike's ecosystem, and then put marketing dollars behind, not knowing what they're receiving, what they're getting, and then looking at point of sales, and that country will carry the device, that point of sale, that partner, and going through that whole go-to-market with actually you being the only convincing individual that needs to get them to put money behind something that they don't know. And when it did launch, it was obviously, with the power of an Apple brand, and with the obsession of people, wanting to understand through wearables what their baseline is and how they can become better, more healthier, more active individuals. It was just that moment in time that unlocked so many different opportunities and avenues for customers. And then once it was out, it was sold out immediately. Yeah. And then it did what Apple does best, and that is, you create such a want, a desire, that you're willing to wait. Of course, you're frustrated, but that build up and that waiting it took like 6 to 8 months before it was restocked, and then again sold out, and then sold out. So it was like little tiny drops, but that created such an exciting opportunity to be part of, and to see that a device such as that. And Apple, Nike used to have the Fuel Band. Now I'm telling my age. So that was like their first wearable device that Nike had, and that already was a success, because that was the first kind of device where people could see how many steps they actually done, and it would tell you you're in the green, so you've had an active day. So for that to be replaced by an Apple Watch, and the brands are kind of adjacent, they're both best in what they do. So as a customer, you had the best of both, and this entire new device that would dissect the digital version of you and help you become that better individual. That was a fun roller coaster.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Would it be safe to say that Apple were the first or the pioneers around marketing being all about storytelling and the customer sort of experience and journey, where they're locked into that brand? Like, I know personally, like, I wasn't an Apple person at the start. Met my wife, she was an Apple person. My whole house became Apple. Everything was connected to the Apple connections, from Macs to MacBooks to iPhones to pods and everything else in between. But it's that your strong association with a particular brand, like I have with Nike. Like I won't wear any other brand when I'm going into the gym or playing sport. It has to be Nike. Don't know why. It's almost like in my head, I've convinced myself I'm sponsored by Nike, so now I'm going to wear Nike, right? And I won't even look at another brand, because I have that strong affiliation with that brand personally. These brands have done such a great job in creating that, whereas others don't even get close to that. So what's the secret sauce behind getting that sort of optimum level of connection with your consumer base?
I think brand loyalty is really living your truth as a brand. So Nike, we know they started in running as a sports, as a category, and those values that were back then so important are still relevant today, and they're using these brand values to really get customers to commit. And at the same time, there is this movement of, so Nike obviously calls the customers not customers, but it's athletes. Everybody is an athlete. And that is such a beautiful way of looking at it. If you have a body, you're an athlete.
Yeah.
And it's so inclusive. So without, in today's world, it's all about inclusivity and diversity. But you don't have to say it to actually live those values. Yeah. And Nike is the perfect example of celebrating athletes, whether you're a celebrity athlete or you're a customer, and and really, celebrate their performance versus who they are, where they're from, and, what type of athletes, whether you are a starter or you're an experienced, athlete for an Olympics. So that's beautiful. So when you do, live those values as a brand, and when you buy Nike product, you're buying into a representation of you.
Yeah.
You know that products, Nike products, not only their latest technology, but they're secondary to the activity. The activity is you becoming a better version of you, and the products just give you that push, that bump into that new version or that better version of you. So everything I just said is what Nike does.
Yeah.
That is what they do best. And when they do go into different categories, they're in basketball, they're in tennis, but how do you then translate those same values into other categories without losing your essence?
Yeah.
And I think that that's where Nike in the last, decade has lost itself, because when you do go super broad, how it becomes harder for you to be consistent. And as I started this conversation, it's all about consistency. Yeah. So it's good for any brand to just, stop, reflect, tweak, and then move again. I think same thing as well with Apple. Apple does something that is amazing, which is not only build an ecosystem that once you're in, you're hooked, and then everything in your life is just about Apple. But that's the strategic element of it. The connection that Apple builds is obviously, when you do experience a product or a service, whether it's hardware, software, whatever, Apple Pay, it is an immediate elevation of your day-to-day. So it's a drug. You need more of it. I mean, when Apple Pay was launched, the fact that you could pay with your device, whether it's your phone or your Apple Watch, that was, you stop bringing your wallet with you. So that's an elevation. And that is across everything that Apple does. It's really about how do we simplify, and this is something that, Apple stands for, and we were groomed back then at Apple as well, is that everything you do, stop, ask yourself 3, not even questions, but 3 kind of keywords. Is this something that you can simplify? Just make it so simple that it is there to serve a purpose and to help you focus on different things in life.
That's brilliant.
Instead of being, consumed with 5 devices on different platforms and whatever.
That's brilliant. Majid Al Futtaim.
Yeah.
Monster of a business. Okay. You had to balance brand and customer experience in multiple countries, like 35, 38 countries.
Yes.
How do you manage that?
So there is this thing about when you look at a big conglomerate or a big brand that has a big footprint in Africa, in Asia, in the Middle East, you really need to build a foundation, a foundation that looks at an operating model and with an excellence of what is it that we do to empower the countries and the points of sale to be doing what they should be doing, which is obsess about their local customers. So when you dial that all the way back, it's you're the service center. You are the center of excellence, which is a word that you would not use, but we're there to help you do what you need to do. And so you start looking at really how can we equip them to be focused on loyalty that translates into customer loyalty, retention, You would look at playbooks, you would look at guidelines, you would look at how do we govern the kind of consistency again, how we show up as a brand. So it's really, that building a strong foundation for a center of excellence to do what it needs to do, which is your strategy, your guidelines, your guardrails, your proof of concept, testing, trialing, and then allowing the countries and the physical points of sale to do what they need to do without any of that noise.
Yeah.
And I think that's the power of Majid Al Futtaim in this part of the world and beyond, is to be able to have a strong playbook that when they do go to market, there is something that they will, 80% is consistent. consistent, and 20% is really localized to be able to meet the demands of the customers that are obviously different across the world.
Amazing.
But their needs and wants are consistent. So that's the 80% again. When you're in Majid Al Futtaim, when you're in retail, when you're, you know, driving a brand such as Carrefour, which is a huge brand of theirs, that customer still needs groceries. So that's the one thing that you know is consistent. But the way how he or she shops and how they go through their shopping experience, which is always different in every single country, because of proximity, because of is it a mall based, is it street based, whatever that is. That's when you have that local nuances.
Okay, I'm going to expose you now. Okay, so this is going to get a little bit, you know, dark and dirty right now.
All right,
okay,
bring it on.
You're probably the only person in my 23 years of recruitment that I've met that hasn't put a single post on LinkedIn. You've got 14, 15,000 followers on LinkedIn without a single post. I bring this up because we're talking about brand, talking about company brands, but as important is a personal brand. Your personal brand is behind the curtain, is underground, is on the black market. No one really sees what you're doing unless they're working alongside you, collaborating with you, and so forth, right? So there are so many questions with this, but firstly, how do you resist the temptation that everyone else has? I mean, when I shared your profile with the team, I said, this is going to be our next guest. One of the team members said, he hasn't put a single post on LinkedIn. Like, how is he not putting himself out there in a world where everyone is a content creator, where everyone is an influencer, where everyone is focusing on their personal brand? What are you doing?
There's a lot to unpack there. So let me start with a personal reason.
Yeah.
So one is during my time at Apple, there was one story that was told about Steve Jobs not allowing his kids to get any of the Apple hardware products. And that was because he already knew back then that these devices would consume people's time to a point that it impacts, you know, the younger generations of actually doing what they should be doing,
1000%.
which is having fun outdoors and really living their lives without hiding behind a device. Yeah. So that kind of resonated with me, and my wife and I made that conscious decision to say, you know what, although our girls at one point will have devices, we need to avoid of them being so much influenced by all of the social platforms out there. And to live that, we had to make a conscious decision as well to not be on social ourselves, lead by example. So I'm not on any social platform. My wife isn't on any social platforms. But
how do you go out for lunch and not take a photo of your meal? I mean, how is that even possible?
Well, I take a selfie having the meal, but I'm not sharing it with the world. Yeah. So and that's actually it taught me one very important thing is that I'm actually in the moment. Yeah. I'm enjoying the meal without having to present what I'm eating and what I'm doing with the rest of the world. So I think that's my personal story. Although my oldest one is 19 now, so she's obviously on these platforms, but she comes from, and she's obviously a Gen Z, but she comes with kind of a mindset where it complements. It did not replace her opinion, her view, because there is that reality of like, hold on a second, but I got to this point, and she's an amazing, you know, strong female student, and I know that she's going to be an incredible leader one day. But so she has kind of the old ways of our generation, which was at one point we were introduced and then it complemented instead of replacing our social life, our kind of, you know, our knowledge gathering, our entertainment. And I think so that's the kind of the personal side of it. From a work point of view, I'm on social all the time, every day, all day, because it's a channel where we communicate with our customers. Yeah. So, or end users. So it is a work platform. So of course you are on your business platforms engaging, or you're communicating, or you're learning from what's going out there. But because that is when work stops, you're not on those platforms anymore. So you can actually manage yourselves by being on social platforms for the sake of work and not for the sake of your own entertainment or knowledge gathering or whatever.
So I have no doubt that in your role and with your experience that you understand these platforms better than most, even without socially being on them personally.
Yeah.
Okay. But in a world where personal brand is so powerful and so important, to the point that I would even go as far as saying that in my career, especially in the Middle East, where it's 10x compared to back home in Oz or in the UK, the personal brand that people would use me, partner with me, engage with me as Abdurrahman more than the businesses that I either represented or that I owned myself.
Yeah.
That me as an individual entity was far more known and had a stronger brand presence than the businesses and their brands. So in that kind of world where, hence the reason why you see so many people sharing, everyone's a thought leader. Yep. Everyone's giving their opinion on absolutely everything. ChatGPT is kind of ruining that because it's diluting people's originality with how they actually write their pieces and so forth.
Yeah.
But you're completely detached.
It's true, and it's one is self-protection because during my Nike days, we've had these big conferences and we've had all of these big presentations we would give, 800,000, whether they were store managers or all the way to functions within the business that we would go and give all of these big seminars and go to markets. I enjoyed being on stage a little bit too much. And I was looking forward to moments of me presenting. And at one moment, the content became secondary. It was more the adrenaline and me being able to share the story, whether it was a personal story or it was the story of the brand. And that's when I realized that, although you can be on stage and you can present and people are, amazed and taken on this, journey of the presenter. But I realized, alhamdulillah, early enough that it's not about the person. It's about the content, and that actually has a meaning, and there are people that take away messages or learnings that they can use in their day to day. So I dialed that completely back to a point where where I've grown my LinkedIn because it's my business profile. That when I do engage, it needs to be meaningful. It needs to be authentic. And everybody that does follow me because they have worked with me or they have interacted with me knows it comes from a place of humility, authenticity. It's really adding, and it's not presenting. Yeah. And I think that is what's lost today. A lot of people have built a brand based upon
what they present.
But the content, why am I listening to this? Why am I reading this? Why am I engaging with this? It's fluff. So if it doesn't, deliver a message for the audience to really go, hold on a second, this is a great angle, this is a great point of view. So after 20 years, funny enough, LinkedIn exists 21 years. After 20 years, this is the first interview that I'll be posting. And hopefully, well, I'm glad
to be your first.
You're definitely my first. It's now I'm back on the drug. But
I find it more remarkable because of who you are as a character. Because out of all the guests that I've had so far, I think we're pushing 20 episodes. You're the most comfortable in the chair. Yes. Okay, so you're the most comfortable on stage. So typically that sort of personality is comfortable sharing their thoughts and their views, right?
Yeah. So but it needs to be meaningful. And that's the piece, is that hopefully with this conversation and with an audience listening to it and tapping into it, if they can walk away with a few nuggets where they go, oh, that's a different take, or that is something that I can use, then mission accomplished. Yeah. And then, but to keep engaging is a full-time job.
Yeah, it is.
It is, and that's why these presenters on these platforms like LinkedIn, they become It literally overtakes their day to day.
Yeah, it is.
And to find that balance is really to be very picky in who your first is gonna be.
Yeah.
And then
I'm feeling quite privileged right now. This is
not at all. You're making me super comfortable to be able to have this conversation. So, and then if anything would follow out of this, I would be very picky and really be able to curate what I say, how I say it, to drive an impact.
Yeah. You nailed on the head earlier. You mentioned, people that are sharing content and they're not really adding. They're just, they're just giving their opinions for the sake of giving their opinions.
Yeah.
And myself personally, I find myself in that situation many times during the year where I'm in a bit of a content sort of a cave and I'm just writing and then sharing content for 2, 3, 4 weeks. Yeah. And I'm all over LinkedIn. And then I'm just mentally exhausted. And then I take a break for a month or so.
Yeah.
Because I can't sustain it. Because I've got so many other things on in my day-to-day, work life, and let alone personal life with the 3 kids, my wife,
yeah.
and everything else that we're doing, that you're so spot on with this, that it's all encompassing. It's just, you drown in thinking what's
Agreed.
next.
Yeah.
No matter how strong you are mentally, you get sucked into how many engagements, likes, and so forth, comments and things like that. You find yourself commenting on everything. You
take it personal.
And it's just like, I'm sitting there scratching my head thinking, why did they misunderstand what I actually wrote? And they're writing something like, I posted about that sort of Coldplay sort of concert, right? Yeah. And it went ridiculous. It had like, I think 400,000 views. And, people were just complaining about me, talking about someone's personal life, even though in the actual caption I wrote, this is not a dig at them and their personal choices. This is talking about the human capital side of business with a HR person and a CEO obviously coming together and doing what they're doing and so forth. And yet it was just playing on my mind for a week or two, that the level of, comments that were coming my way, and you just get sucked down this rabbit hole. And I'm almost at the point where I'm tapping out, just like, I don't want to share this content anymore. Even though I made that conscious decision probably 2 years ago that I want to be a so-called thought leader. Yeah. But I would rather do something like this. And this was the main motivation behind this, is to have these sort of conversations. And like you said, just to share those sort of nuggets with people. And if someone walks away with something that they wouldn't have gotten because they have no access to you, 100%. Then that's a win for us and for this platform, right? Agreed. Because we're doing it in the right way, as opposed to just blindly just sharing content for those shallow likes and comments.
100%. And throughout my career, I've not only doing marketing but as well comms and corporate comms. Behind every CEO that is very aggressive in being a public individual or being a thought leader that contributes to the business, there are amazing copywriters and amazing social media experts and amazing comms PR individuals that are behind the scene curating exactly what is being said and how it's being said, with loads of media training. I've seen many CEOs that lose the true version of them. Yeah. Because it really is there to drive two things. Either it's very, very aggressive on representing the company, the industry, and really, to drive more visibility and an engagement, or it is a personal agenda. Yeah. I need to be seen. I need to be rewarded. I need to be recognized within the work that I do, the world that I'm in. And that's what I've always, avoided, to not fall into that behavior, because I've been the person behind the individual and seeing that authenticity fade, because when they start, it is very authentic. It's very real. Yeah. But to your point, it is a drug, and you just want more and more and more and more. And at one point, you're completely consumed about what's the next topic, what's the next, how did they misinterpret that? Why didn't I have that amount of like? Why is it not shared? Why is it? And then it's
the damn algorithm.
Well, blame it on the algorithm.
Let's get back into marketing. Okay, yep. Customer first.
Yes.
What's the lie behind that phrase?
Why is it a lie?
Surely there is, right? I mean, it's become such a...
It's a buzz.
it's a buzz, but it's such a world-renowned phrase now. Whether you're in any industry, customer first is the one that everyone goes to, but there has to be something behind it.
I mean, customer first is a pledge.
Yeah.
And it's when it's a pledge, you have to deliver to that promise. And what you see is that a lot of businesses are not ready to really be driving customer obsession and really organizing their business to deliver to the promise they have made. And so yes, it is something that businesses want to do, and when they start talking about it, you know that they are at the start, because brands like a Nike, brands like an Apple, they don't talk about customer centricity. They don't talk about being customer obsessed, because that is their entire model. Knowing the needs and wants of customers before the customers know it themselves. And that's how you have built an entire organization and brand and business around that notion. When you start talking about, we need to be customer obsessed, we need to be customer centric,
you're so far away from it.
You're not doing it.
Yeah.
And B, to get there, it will take you a while. And those are the jobs that I've had recently, where how do you transform a business to understand the customer and work back in a way to start evolving the business to be able to be customer centric. So yeah, I agree. It's a buzzword.
I find that very interesting, because I work in an industry that is, I would say, toxic and stained because of the lack of customer centricity.
Yes.
That recruitment agencies, partners, external partners have a real negative stigma on them because of them being focused on the invoice and doing a deal at all costs. And even if you suffer as a candidate or you suffer as a client, typically the industry doesn't care, because they want to make money, because they're so KPI driven, right?
You're pleasing the shareholders.
And that's 90% of the industry.
Yeah.
So when you and I was the same in my early days. We were just cowboys. We were wolves of Wall Street, jumping on the phone, making X amount of calls per day, trying to pick up roles, trying to close deals. That's what we were. We were stockbrokers in the recruitment world. And then you realize that you're burning bridge after bridge after bridge, and there's no one left to sort of talk to. And then you realize that there's more to your industry or your job than just making those placements and sending the invoice. Yeah. It is the relationships.
I agree.
And I would say probably 5 or 6 years in, I pivoted into a more sort of a customer-centric sort of a behavior. Yeah. And that's been very difficult to maintain in an industry where your competitors are doing whatever they have to get the deal over the line, and you're there trying to be but I care about you. You know, and we will even pull a candidate out of a process if we feel that candidate is not right for that culture, even though we know we're getting a 150K fee for that deal. And you as the client, you want that candidate, and we're going to convince you now to not take that candidate, essentially convince you to not pay us 150,000 dirhams.
Agreed.
That is a lot of sort of willpower to sort of to sustain, right? Yeah. Because you need to be able to walk away from that money, because you value the relationship with the customer. Yeah. You value their needs more than your own needs, right? So it's a real struggle for our industry to sort of maintain that.
But it's, I mean, your industry is ruthless. Ruthless in the sense of, you know, most of the companies, businesses out there are focused on volume. It's not focused on, you know, the quality of it, where we know that the lasting relationships that you make, whether it is with the employer or with the employee, are the ones that, you know, get you that next deal. Because it's not about the first placement, it's about the placements after. So once you have placed an executive in an organization, when that entire journey has been transparent, it's always been, you know, on point, open communication. It is a partnership between a business leader and the employee. It is not, you know, it's equal. It is a partnership that you're moving in together. When that is being facilitated by the likes of yourself, you know that when that individual ends up building his or her org, you're the first one that they will be calling. Yeah. When there is a broken relationship, you're the last one that is
Yeah.
on their mind, because you tricked them to take that role.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have not been transparent. And I think that's why I call it ruthless, because it's a lot of storytelling, it's a lot of promises, and there's a lot of ghosting. There is a lot of but that's when it's heavy on volume. It's not having individuals like yourself that really think about, it's not about displacement, it's about all of the placements that come after having this person find their new home, because that's what you're doing. You're finding people a new home. Bear in mind that we spend 80% of our day, of our week, of our unfortunate life working for others, until you're privileged to be able to work for yourself and have teams that would work for you. But still, you're doing the hours, you're doing the work. So you're spending all of that time away from home. You're finding me a home away from home. And so that is a huge responsibility.
100%.
But if you don't take it the way how you've been acting and how you've been looking at driving business and driving growth and driving those real relationships, you're dealing with, unfortunately, a lot of noise, and I almost want to say incompetence.
And you just said we all think the customer is the client, is the company. It's not.
It's
the customer is you, the candidate. Because that responsibility that we carry.
Agreed.
Especially when we take those passive candidates who are currently working in a job and are quite comfortable. They're happy where they are, but we tap them on the shoulder and we entice them with an opportunity that could be, more lucrative for them financially. It could be a more exciting sort of, opportunity for them to grow into a different role. But if we do that knowingly that it's a toxic culture or it's a horrible dynamic between them and their CEO or their leader in that business, just because we know that they will get the job because the client will love them, and we don't sort of carry those sort of ethics and like morals in how we actually do our job, then we are literally the most poisonous people on earth. Because yanking someone out from a good environment and with a promise of finding him somewhere better, knowing that it's not, it's actually 10 times worse, and doing it anyway, is a level of execution that is just, borderline criminal in our eyes. That's how ruthless I can actually be on it.
Amen.
That's how strong I feel about it.
Love it.
Okay. What's the most rewarding and challenging part of running your own consultancy? Because I can really relate to this.
What's rewarding is being able to leave something behind that has actually, surpassed what the original brief was, or what the intent was. So being able to walk into a brand or a business and to say, you know what, great, I'll be your fractional CMO. I'll be focused on, building an organization, creating a strategy, and leaving a blueprint that you look back 12 months, 2 years, and then actually realizing that it's still being used. So I think that's driving an impact that is extremely fulfilling. Being able to choose. And you've mentioned this earlier. Being able to go, you know what? That's an environment that is toxic. Fine. I'm not part of that environment because I'm always there as a fractional. I'm there to join. Do I want to do this? Yes. Great. I know it's toxic. That is for them to figure out.
It's a choice, though.
I am, on the sideline doing what I need to do without being sucked into it. And I think that's if I would ever go back into an employment, I would always use that, my experience having a brand consultancy, going, would I be better off as an employee or as a brand consultant being on the side? And it always depends on the toxicity. And again, what is toxicity? It depends different things for different people on their ability to handle environments like that. Family businesses tend to be an interesting dynamic in the sense of, there is an emotional connection to what they do, and therefore there is not only managing stakeholders and shareholders, but as well family dynamics and emotions. My 10 years working with American brands and on the ground in the US, I would do great in Washington. I would play those politics and be a great senator for whatever. But it's a choice because it is time consuming and it takes away from the job that you do. So I think that's having your own business. You get to choose, you get to always be on the sideline, but there is as well, an element that you do miss and crave. And, I always look at it as a chef in a kitchen that goes out, does the grocery shopping, comes back, creates the menu, puts all the ingredients together, and then just disappears because the job is done. No. My job is when I cooked it, I served it, people have tasted it, they loved it, I get feedback, I will reinvent the menu again and the recipes, but I don't get to do that because you're hired to do the front and not the last bit. So that's the one thing that I do crave, is that in today's world, where the industry, where the region has been consultant fatigued by now, that come in and tell big brands this is what you should be doing. The how is always missing. And the knowledge, getting the experts to come in and actually do the job, that is always the biggest challenge of every big brand, and especially in this part of the world that has been feeding off consultants for way too long. And now they're stuck with the implementation and the execution.
I'm at a point where I could probably never work for someone ever again. Mentally, I just don't think I could overcome going into an organization, no matter how good the opportunity is, maybe Nike, but anywhere else, I'd probably just say, not for me, no matter what the money was like, no matter what the environment was like, because I'm just probably too wired now the other way of being on my own, working on my own for myself, and so forth. Do you fear that moment for you where you no longer have that craving, where if the right opportunity came along to do the full scope CMO role with someone, do you fear that you might cross that bridge where just like, I'm happy now doing the fractional work for the rest of my life?
Yeah. I mean, it's, you get to an age where you start to ask yourself questions, and they're usually, it's the financial kind of, it's a financial driver to work so hard to get to a point where you are working to live an amazing life and to not have to work to be able, to sustain your life. When you get to that point, and I'm not there yet, inshallah, one day, inshallah, you'll be super picky in, you know what? I don't have to do it, but because I love what I do and I hope I'm great in what I do, you'll be looking at your question differently, because it's like, you know what, my next job, my next consultancy gig, I'm just gonna have fun. Doing what I do best, and I'm going to enjoy it, and then the finances are secondary. So that's the ultimate goal. So it keeps you flexible to not say no until you reach that point. To say no to any opportunity that comes on your path. So are there any brands that I would want to work for? Absolutely. Are those the big brands, the obvious brands? You know what? I've actually said no to them because it meant that I had to move back to the US or back to Europe. And I didn't want to, because I'm not done in this region. I'm far from done. And I think that, being able to work for some of the companies and brands and government entities in this part of the world, my contribution is more meaningful, impactful than it will be for any of these big players out there.
I love that. We have a lightning round now. So just to run you through it, this is going to be a list of probably some of the most groundbreaking questions that are going to make you just, think twice, but you need to be quick.
Okay.
Quick with your answers, quick on your feet as well.
All
okay.
Right.
So we'll try to get through as many of them as possible, and then we'll see how we go. This is going to be the real eye opener, okay? Into your soul. Okay?
In my soul.
This is what we're going for.
My very deep
Apple,
and dark
Nike,
soul.
Armani, and math. Which has taught you the biggest lesson?
Nike.
What was it?
Work-life balance.
Love that. The one marketing buzzword that you wish would disappear forever.
Omnichannel. It is.
I did not see that coming.
It's painful. It's either that or agile. Agile. A business being agile. That's just looking at random cowboys shooting, hoping that something is going to be hit. And oh yeah, that's what we're doing. It just gets me all agitated.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
The one company that you'd love to rebrand.
Airbnb.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They've lost their ways. While it's such a great concept, I would go in and shake things up and really create like a service and a destination people want to be comfortable in.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Your biggest fail that became your biggest learning.
Back to Nike, back to
Okay.
work-life balance, having to be burned out because of the passion of the job and what I was doing. And that was such a failure as an individual to just allow your body to be actually worked to a level that it just shuts down. But the learning out of it is what my biggest achievement is that how do you build that work-life balance where you can keep going and knowing when it's too much.
Brilliant. The campaign that you're most proud of throughout your career?
I would say Ramadan, the first Ramadan Apple campaign in this region.
When was that?
That was in 2016 Ramadan, where the shot on iPhone was used as a platform to get customers to go out in the desert and shoot the different stages of the moon.
Oh, wow.
Throughout Ramadan and really build on that excitement of people connecting with their devices, their phones, learning, and the learning opportunity, obviously, and then at the same time doing that in a very spiritual month.
Customer experience in one word.
Truth.
This guy's coming up with some pearlers here. Okay, last one. If you were in marketing, which I don't know how it would be even possible, but if you were in marketing, what would you be doing?
Hollywood. I had an opportunity to be in Hollywood.
You and me both. Let's do this.
And here I am. If it would not be telling the stories of brands, it would be telling the stories of film.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Still similar, but then doing it on a big screen. And then not per se in front of the camera. I would be comfortable just writing the stories.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. Well, this has been exactly what I thought it would be. You have definitely proven that we're going to bring you back and do more episodes with you because this has been thoroughly enjoyable. Thank you so much for coming on board.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
This was amazing. Thank you so much.